La obra de Shakespeare sigue siendo una obra sumamente contemporánea, es decir, es por eso que está en la base de muchas de las cosas que se escriben o que se producen incluso para cine, para televisión.
What Shakespeare has achieved is great art across borders, across racial boundaries, across cultural boundaries. It spans, it transcends.
Vamos, canta la canción de la rueda que a compás viene la letra. El infame mayordomo fue quien robó a la hija de su amo.
Estas vaguedades son más que discursos.
Mira, creo que es fundamental Shakespeare para el teatro y para cualquier estudiante de actuación.
Shakespeare is an entry in the encyclopedia of artistry and performing arts. A very large and important entry.
Toma, Romero, esto es para tus recuerdos. Ama, reza y recuerda. Y toma, esto es para tus pensamientos.
Time and time again, you go into both the comedies and the tragedies and even the historical plays. You keep saying, yes, I can recognize something of what is happening in my own contemporary society.
Creta está en su locura. Aúna los pensamientos y los recuerdos.
Tomad hinojo para vos. Y esta ruda para vos. Y esta es para mí. Hierba santa. Os la colocaréis de diferente manera que yo.
Harold Bloom lo ha llamado el eje del canon de la literatura occidental. Es por eso que podríamos decir que cualquiera de sus obras nos está hablando de problemas universales y problemas contemporáneos, de problemas que nos atañen a todos y que han cambiado de locación, de temporalidad, pero que siguen siendo, digamos que, interesantes, importantes, efectivos a la hora de pensarnos además como seres humanos.
Whether he wanted it so or not, Shakespeare is an icon, a tool, a flag bearer of the dominant cultural forces. And as long as those forces are dominant, Shakespeare will be dominant.
Y esta es una margarita. Pues hubiese cogido violetas, pero se marchitaron cuando murió mi padre.
Partimos de que los conflictos en Shakespeare son conflictos universales, ¿no? El personaje es un personaje que tiene toda la gama de colores de los personajes en Shakespeare. Parten de un humanismo. Entonces, es muy fácil hacer como una analogía entre los conflictos que tenemos ahora mismo en nuestro país o de manera mundial, pero bueno, siempre hay que pensar en particular, ¿no? A una obra, por ejemplo, como Hamlet, por ejemplo.
Dicen que murió sanamente.
A los pensamientos, a la aflicción, a la pasión, al infierno mismo, imprime el sello de su dulzura y encanto.
Creo que es la oportunidad de hacerlo. Creo que Shakespeare todavía nos tiene mucho que decir, pero sobre todo en todos los componentes que puede tener para el actor, desde su proyección sobre la escena, desde el trabajo con la voz, del trabajo de la construcción de los personajes y sobre todo en los registros que el actor puede encontrar sobre la escena. O sea, porque estamos hablando de personajes que se mueven y van... Yo creo que Shakespeare es música.
Mañana que es día de gran alegría, pues víspera es de San Juan. En hora temprana yo iré a tu ventana ese día serás mi galán. Se hallaba dormido, más presto vestido, para abrirle la puerta bajó, y entró la cuitada mujer deshonrada, pensativa a su casa volvió.
Enslaved Africans brought to this beach. Fast forward many years, there's so-called emancipation. After a long period of physical and psychological torment, more psychological in many ways than physical in terms of breaking the minds of the enslaved Africans. So you control their bodies were not theirs. And after a period of time, we can say that in some ways their minds were not theirs as well. And a big part of this was the educational process. So we fast forward to independence now, and Barbados becomes an independent island, controlled by the descendants of those slaves. I find myself in a classroom presented with Shakespeare.
I was first introduced to Shakespeare works as a student in secondary level. Didn't understand it much then. Felt very confused. And as I went on to tertiary education at Edna Manley College, still didn't understand it. As a matter of fact, I didn't like it very much.
Before I even read or ever saw any kind of Shakespeare before in my lifetime, I knew that I wasn't gonna like it. I knew I wasn't gonna like it. I knew I wasn't gonna like any of these plays. Possibly because everybody else thought, this Shakespeare guy is amazing. These plays are great. You're gonna love them. And I thought, not me. I'm not like everybody else. I also thought, too foreign, too posh, too hoity-toity, too white, too British, too something else. That wasn't really me.
And Shakespeare is presented to me as high art, the epitome of great literature. And it is totally or seemingly totally irrelevant and foreign to my day-to-day living. And by that time, I had already decided that this island was mine, this mind was mine, and you ain't getting into my mind with this colonial BS.
After leaving Edna Manley College, I did a presentation with a group of young actors and myself, and we created Bookflex, which was a playtext, studying the playtext, reenacting them, and of course that forced me to dive more into Shakespeare works because we had to analyze them and break it down into palatable portions for the students who were going to attend the production. So from secondary through to tertiary, and of course my career as a teacher put me square, or should I say at the center of Shakespeare's work, or interacting with the works. My appreciation of Shakespeare has gotten a lot better.
So maybe it was because of the way Shakespeare was presented, because it felt back then that Shakespeare was presented to me almost like a slave master. This is, behold, this is your God. This is your literary master. Bow down and know that he is your Lord. And I wasn't having it. So I really rejected Shakespeare early on in life.
And I read the first line of this play, and it was, if music be the food of love, play on, give me excess of it. And I thought, what? I don't understand that. It's not even English. So I thought, exactly, I told y'all. And I put away the book. And we got into that first English literature class, and the teacher was Miss Edgehill. And without opening the book, she told us a story. And it was a story of intrigue and unrequited love and romance and mistaken identity and confusion and in and out and all kinds of excitement. I thought, this is exciting, and I wanted to know what happened next.
It was only later on when I was presented with Shakespeare by a teacher who came at it from another angle. He presented Shakespeare not necessarily as but more like, here's the craft behind it. This is what he was doing. Here is the meter, here is the rhythm, here is the move, this is the machine behind the magic. And I was able to appreciate the craft.
And I was interested and fascinated by this story. I remember saying, wait, hold on, let me get this straight. So, Orsino loves Olivia. Olivia loves Cesario, who's actually Viola. And Viola loves Orsino. This is confusion! What we would call in the Caribbean bacchanal. So it was great. And I fell in love then with this story.
What I've done is ask the grade 8 students to dramatize 30-minute versions of the full-length plays and place it in a Jamaican context. Now, prior to getting it there, the students had to read the full-length version. They had to understand what was going on with the various characters, look at the themes that we were exploring.
When you durst do it, then you are a man. And to be more than what you are, you'll be so much more the man. I have given suck. I know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it were smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out. Had I so sworn, as you have done to this.
If we should fail,
we fail!
Stick with her, go.
But screw your courage to the sticking place and we'll not fail. What can I do when I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? When I put upon his spongy officers who shall bear the guilt of our great quell.
bring forth men, children only. For thy undaunted metal should compose nothing but means. Or we unmark the time with fairest show. False face must hide but false heart.
To say that they are universal is cliche, but I will say they are universal because the Caribbean is a small portion, but a very important portion of the rest of the world. And like the rest of the world, we experience love, prejudice, the supernatural. For example, the supernatural is very rampant in Shakespeare's works.
All hail Macbeth.
What?
Hail to thee, Thane of Glams.
All hail Macbeth.
Hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor.
All hail Macbeth. Thou shalt be king hereafter.
I've taken my grade 7 and 8 students on a path of exploring Shakespeare, and that is to analyze, but not just analyze, but to shy away from the fear of the words and explore what is it that makes us fearful of Shakespeare. Is it that we are afraid of not sounding British enough, or putting Shakespeare in our language or in our context?
I think in the Caribbean, very often there is a block against Shakespeare, and I think it resides in the language, not the situations in the plays. And of course, the thing is that it's a block in any English-speaking country, because it's archaic language to a very large extent, and it is poetic. And it's dense, and it needs to be explored and to be studied.
I remember asking for and receiving a copy of the complete works of Shakespeare when I was 15 years old. I actually asked for it for my 15th birthday. And my father had died the year before when I was 14, and I was really grief-stricken. And I do remember memorizing things from Shakespeare that seemed to give voice to what it was that I was feeling at the time. One of my memories is my emblazoning on the front cover of my literature, English literature exercise book, the words, "Lord, what fools those mortals be," from A Midsummer Night's Dream. Shakespeare's words seemed to me to be able to validate the pain that I was feeling and give voice to it in a way that I couldn't at the time with my 15-year-old self.
I did Twelfth Night again and Merchant of Venice. And I really, really loved these stories. I loved how many layers they had. And I especially loved the women in them. I didn't know then that I was gonna find myself being an actor and a teacher. I didn't see that coming, and I know how Shakespeare has influenced the person that I am right now and the work that I do. I love stories. I love telling stories. I love being in stories. I love acting. And so many of Shakespeare's female characters inspire me. Guys, I see thou art a wickedness, wherein the pregnant enemy does much. How easy is it that the proper faults in women's waxen hearts set their forms? Alas, our frailty is the cause, not we, but such as we are made of, such as we be. How will this fadge? My master loves her dearly, and I, poor monster, fond as much on him as she mistakenly seems to dote on me.
I think it's difficult to call Shakespeare a feminist when you know that the female roles in Shakespeare's plays at the time were being played by boys. But I think what he certainly does is acknowledge the humanity of women in a very powerful way.
Women were actually constrained by their time in that particular era. But he wrote some very strong female characters, and he also wrote some not so strong female characters. For me, and again, I guess this is a therapist, it depends on what your definition of strength is. For me, strength is more understanding who you are, accepting certain things that you can change, accepting that you can't change certain things, and really standing up for your principles.
Set your heart at rest. The fairyland buys not the child of me. His mother was a votaress in my order, and in the spiced Indian air by night, full often hath she gossiped by my side.
My connection to Shakespeare began when I was very young. I grew up in a household where we were surrounded by the classics, Caribbean classics, Shakespeare, in music, in art. We were encouraged to imagine and create. And Shakespeare was there, just like another story, kind of like another storybook in the house. So yeah, a familiarity and an understanding and an appreciation was sort of instilled from a pretty young age.
And she with pretty and with swimming gait following, her womb then rich with my young squire, would imitate and sail upon the lands, to fetch me trifles and return again, as from a voyage rich with merchandise.
But there's another irony in my life, and I often forget to tell people this because I forget this about myself, but when I left my A-levels, I went on to study law, and I became a lawyer. Ha! And there was Portia in my head. I had also studied Merchant of Venice. Portia, a woman of great power, who was a lawyer, who loved a man, and tried all kinds of stuff to be with this man, and used her prowess as a woman to not really be a woman but be a man. to play the part. And I love that.
The Merchant of Venice and Shylock's lending money at interest rates. The Caribbean is burdened by debt, and a lot of it has to do with borrowing money at very, very high interest rates. And although we are no longer enslaved, we still do have a legacy of slavery. And economic bondage is, to my mind, just as harsh. So there's the idea that I want to put forward the idea then of something like debt forgiveness in terms of Portia's speech when she talked about the quality of mercy is not strained.
The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mightiest. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown.
I think that mercy plays an enormous role in something like debt forgiveness. And for whatever reason, in terms of whether you stick to the adage of in Hamlet, neither a borrower or a lender be, the fact is that we are burdened by this enormous debt. And I think that if one can start over, if one has the ability to start over, then as long as you don't go down that same path again, there would be a lot more relief in the society. I think would be a lot less poverty in the society.
But mercy is above this sceptred sway. It is enthroned in the hearts of kings. It is an attribute to God himself. And earthly power doth then show like us gods when mercy seasons justice.
In the case of the Portia speech, I use tracking. So this is a kind of singing that takes place at 9 nights at death rituals in Jamaica, in traditional communities. And I may say something like, the quality of mercy is not strained, and then we all sing, the quality of mercy is not strained. And what you're doing is you're drawing out those vowels so that when they begin to, I mean, obviously I'm not asking them to perform it like that, but it's a way of getting them to understand how those vowels are important, and even in our own traditional society, we stretch them so that the sense of the line can be made clear.
His scepter shows the force of temporal power, the attribute to awe and majesty, wherein doth sit the dread and fear of kings. But mercy is above this sceptred sway.
I think one of the things for us West Indians is owning the language first. Owning it, making sure that you understand every single word and owning it. And interpreting it in a voice that is real and authentic to you and to your West Indian audience, which is what I'm thinking about most often.
So I think that's why it's important to sort of really analyze the speeches and make sense of what is being said in the context.
Therefore, Jew, though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice none of us should see salvation. We do pray for mercy. And that same prayer doth teach us all to render the deeds of mercy. I have spoke this much to mitigate the justice of thy plea, which, if thou follow, this strict court of Venice must needs give sentence against the merchant there.
To be or not to be, el ser o no ser, esa es la cuestión. Yo creo que además de toda esa pregunta existencial que tiene, yo creo que para el actor eso es fundamental.
No me niegues el derecho a hablar a tu dolor. Elija al punto a tus más fieles amigos, que nos oigan y que después juzguen entre nosotros. Si directa o indirectamente piensan que yo he faltado, el reino mío, mi corona, mi vida, todo lo que tengo, como compensación he de entregarte. Pero si así no fuese, es necesario que tu adhesión me entregues. De este modo trabajaré de tu arma de consuelo para satisfacerte.
El actor tiene que ser o no ser. Es de todo o nada. Y en esas disquisiciones en que se mueve el actor para tomar decisiones es donde se conoce al actor.
El pecado de amarme se apodera de mis ojos, de mi alma y de mi todo. Y para este pecado no hay remedio, pues en mi corazón echó raíces. Pienso que es el más bello mi semblante, mi alma entre las puras, la ideal. Y mi valor tan alto conceptúo que para mí opaca todo mérito. Pero cuando el espejo me muestra tal cual soy, agrietado por los años, en sentido contrario mi amor leo que amarse siendo así sería inicuo. Es a ti, otro yo mismo a quien elogio, pintando mi vejez con tu hermosura.
Soy esto o soy esto, me voy por aquí o me voy por acá. Yo creo que son como los puntos de soldadura que tiene el actor sobre la escena, y yo creo que Shakespeare también eso, si uno lo aplica a la creación de personajes o al teatro, yo creo que, y hasta la vida, pues a uno le va sirviendo como de guía, de pauta. Eso mismo, pero mucho más, que te cueste más trabajo hacer cada acción, como sucede con la vejez. Incluso, y pone a eso todo el alma, y que esté en la voz también, en todo, en el todo. Que sea todo como desde la vejez. Y ve justificando cada cosa. Si es el dolor en la cadera, que sea el dolor en la cadera por los años y la fractura en la cadera que ya fue o que ya vendrá. Que todo venga por ahí.
El pecado de amarme se apodera de mis ojos, de mi alma y de mi todo. Y para este pecado no hay remedio, pues en mi corazón echó raíces. Pienso que es el más bello mi semblante, mi alma entre las puras, la ideal. Y mi valor tan alto conceptúo que para mí opaca todo mérito. Pero cuando el espejo me muestra tal cual soy, agrietado por los años, en sentido contrario mi amor leo que amarse siendo así sería inicuo. Es a ti, otro yo mismo a quien elogio, pintando mi vejez con tu hermosura.
Darle que no es letra muerta y que uno siente que Shakespeare respira con nosotros y hay maneras de abordar la naturaleza humana que no han cambiado, o sea, desde que él lo escribió, comportamientos, manipulaciones, cosas que no han cambiado con los siglos. Entonces, yo les inculco también el detenerse en esos detalles que hacen que Shakespeare siga pareciendo un contemporáneo.
¿Cuándo volveremos a encontrarnos las tres? Bajo el trueno, los relámpagos o la lluvia.
Cuando finalice el estruendo, cuando la batalla esté ganada o perdida.
Eso será antes de ponerse el sol.
¿En qué sitio?
En el páramo. Allí nos encontraremos.
Lo hermoso es feo y lo feo es hermoso. Revoloteemos por entre la niebla y el aire impuro.
Y en que Shakespeare puede ser también una manera de abordar la realidad, en que Shakespeare puede ser también una manera de jugar con la realidad. O sea, empezamos a partir de un juego, porque también el mundo isabelino, el mundo shakespeariano, era un mundo también donde se jugaba mucho al teatro.
Bien colorado.
Amor, yo sé que quieres. Amor, yo sé que puedes también.
Si yo encontrara un alma como la mía.
Si tú no drumes, yo te traigo un babalá. Queda pau pau.
Doctor Apolo, la peluita esa me quiere quitar al marido. Doctor Apolo, yo no tengo la culpa de tener azúcar. Ay.
Tú drume, negrita, que yo voy a comprar nueva cunita, que va a tener capité, que va a tener cascabel.
We are looking at Midsummer's Night's Dream, where they went looking for love. And interestingly, the story, I find, is a bigger picture where you had somebody, in other words, you're playing an ass in somebody else's story, and that is the story of Nick's Bottom. And the story was the conflict between Titania and Oberon, and he just fell squarely in there and somewhat being used as a pawn. And if I may be politically astute here or being political, the Jamaican people in particular have been, the voters have been used as pawns, to say the least.
In terms of what I do as a spoken word artist, I think what I do is very similar to what Shakespeare attempted to do. What I attempt to do is very similar to what Shakespeare attempted to do. Shakespeare sought to get behind the veneer of society, get behind the barriers that in his audience's minds, and bring those two hidden worlds together and make them meet and challenge each other. And that's what I seek to do in my art.
What is it you see when you look into the mirror? What is your mirror image? Are you the redeeming descendant of the dispossessed or the functional heir of those who pillage? Do you represent your ancestral lineage? Or are you a branch grafted onto the tree of your slave master's heritage?
Not having connected with Shakespeare when I was younger, I don't have the emotional attachment to Shakespeare that some of my peers may have. What I do have is an appreciation for the artistry and the craft that Shakespeare has. And I'm able to look at Shakespeare dispassionately and pull from it. They say that great artists steal. Yeah, I steal from Shakespeare. I'm ashamed to say it.
As I am man, what will come of this? What will come of this? What? Well, when I went to England to study acting, who knew that I was going to get to play Olivia and Viola as well when I went to acting school? And I thought, look how things turn around. Ha! And then in Barbados, I got to play one of the witches in Macbeth, and that was great fun. That was directed by Glenn Walford. And the way we got to use our bodies and be a different kind of witch. So now where I'm left as a teacher is to get my children to be inspired by stories and let them see these Shakespeare stories and see what they can do with them in Caribbean ways and West Indian ways and how they can retell them and be inspired by them and recognize at the same time that that guy Shakespeare was a top storyteller.
Right now, I see Shakespeare as an ancestor of mine, a cultural ancestor. I have no problem saying that because I speak English. It's my first language. And I've grown up in an English-speaking country and an island that was colonized exclusively by the British. So whether I like it or not, whether I knew it or not, my artistic sensibilities have been influenced by Shakespeare because you cannot speak English and not be influenced by Shakespeare because Shakespeare has influenced the English language and the culture of English-speaking countries immensely. So even some of the artists who I would not have rejected in my formative years, who I would have embraced in my formative years, were influenced by Shakespeare. So he's in me whether I like it or not.
Hay una frase que a mí me gusta mucho en particular porque le da título además a una novela de Faulkner, que es El ruido y la furia. Esa frase que dice que la vida es un cuento contado por un idiota lleno de ruido y furia que nada significan. Es decir, a mí me parece que está en la base además del pensamiento existencial de Occidente. Me parece una frase que resume muy bien ese sentimiento de pérdida, de vacío, que en algún momento todo Occidente ha sentido, ¿no?
All the world's a stage, and we're mere players. And each player has their exits and their entrance. We have a number of roles to play as we go through life. Clearly, I play a number of roles myself: teacher, counselor, actor, writer, director. But outside of that, it says that we have to play a number of roles while still maintaining our true self or some semblance of self. And so what that quote has done for me, or has stimulated, is just to bring to the fore rather the issue of sometimes to get along in life, you have to play another man's story. You have to go along with others' story. Sometimes some stories are not your story, but it is told through you. You influence change, you impact others.
Shakespeare had such a deep understanding of human emotions. And it's more than the understanding. It's the ability to articulate that understanding that can touch our own emotions and give them a voice, like what I alluded to earlier. So for example, my very favorite line of Shakespeare is from Hamlet. This above all, to thine own self be true. It's something that I actually try and do, which is to be my authentic self. And not only my authentic self, but to encourage others to be their authentic selves as well.
So I actually have just finished writing a play, and one of the characters in my play, he speaks in prose, and the lines he says are either from Shakespeare or the own original prose that I've written in, or they're lines from Calypso. He's very much a supernatural character himself, but yes, I saw that, I felt the influence of Shakespeare coming through as I was writing it. So the influence of Shakespeare in my life has been not just as an actor, because of course what actor, doesn't
want to have that, and I've so tremendously enjoyed performing the work of the bard, but also as a director, it's been such a wonderful challenge, and now as a writer, I'm seeing his work appearing again, which once again proves that we're actually soulmates. He's a very much older man.
Que así sea. Su modo de morir. Su oculto entierro. Sin trofeos ni espadas, sin escudo su tumba. Ningún rito o ceremonia. Esto, como si voz del cielo fuese que lo pide la tierra, está clamando aclaraciones. Y aclararlo es justo.